right? So today we will go through the API documentation which we have seen yesterday, and we will just have a glance at two important classes in java.lang package, that is class by the name class itself, and there is another class called as object class. These are two very important classes. So first we will go through these two classes, understand the importance of these two classes, then we will come back to the fundamental concepts like how do we write a class in Java. That is what is today's topic, right? So already what is a class, what is the object, and all other object oriented programming concepts we have discussed. So today we will see how to write a class in Java. Before that, let us go through the API document, visit these two important classes, see what is available in these two classes, and let us try to understand the importance of these two classes before we actually start writing a basic Java class. Okay, so let us go to the API document. As I told you yesterday, it can be either downloaded or it can be directly accessed if you have internet connection. So better if you download. So the topmost left window will show you the list of packages. In that, my interest is java.lang. I'll try to increase the font size. I'll try to zoom it. Is it comfortable now?
Yes, sir.
So java.lang is the package. In this, we have interfaces and classes, and the class which we wanted to see is class called as class as well as object. So let me click on this one in the left window, click on class, then right side you will get the description about the class. Similarly, for all classes, this is how you use the API, read the description of the classes, and you understand what are the methods in that class, what is the purpose of a method, what it returns, what are the parameters. So since nobody can remember all these classes and methods which are available in Java, so we have a API which stands for Application Programmer Interface. So definitely one should know how to use API, so that using API we can go through what are the classes that are available in Java, what methods are available, which method is in which class, right? All other information about built-in classes and methods can be referred in API document. So it is very, very important and one should know how to use it. So now look at this one. So this is java.lang package and the class name is class, right? Now if you down here in this window, you will find the description of this class: public final class. So please don't get confused. Something which is written in small letters class is the keyword, right? We use this keyword when we create a class. So class is a keyword which represents like this is a class, and name of the class is class with capital C. So you have a class by the name class, and it extends object, means super class of this class is object class. In fact, super class of all classes is object class. I hope you know that. Yes,
Yes.
right. So this class implements serializable generic declaration and some other interfaces. So now what is the importance of this one is, just scroll down. These are the methods in the class called as class, right? All methods. If I click on this one, only static methods will come, and only instance methods which can be accessed after creating the object, right? Static methods. Similarly, concrete method, instance method, and concrete method. And if I select this one, all methods, I'll get all methods. So in this, if you scroll down, there is one important method. That's the reason I wanted you to go through this one, called as for name method. For name method. If you read it, what it returns, for name is a method, right? What is the name of the method? For name. Can you see this?
Yes, sir.
So name of the method is for name method. What is the return? What type of method it is? Is it a static method or instance method?
So static methods.
It's a static method. What it is returning, sir? What it is returning? Public static void main. So main's return type is void. Public static class for name. So what is the return type of for name?
It's class.
Yes. So please don't get confused here. For name is a very special method which is available inside a class called as class. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
And it returns, when I call this method, when I use this method, it returns me an object of what type?
Class type.
Right. Where is for name method? Where is
Inside
for name? It is in
inside
which class?
class.
Got the point? Did you observe this important point? For name is a method which is sitting in a class called as class. And when I call it, when I run this for name method, what is the return type of for name method? It returns an object of type called as class. So for name is a special method which returns object of its container class. Can I use the word? It returns object of its container class. For name sits in class. For name is available inside a class called as class, and for name returns objects of its own class called as class.
Yes,
Yes
sir.
or no? Such methods are called as factory methods. Such methods are called as factory methods. You please make a note of it. So this is an important point, right? So what is for name? First of all, for name is a static method, right? So for name, for name, for name is a static method. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
For name is a static method. How do I call a static method? To call a static method, we have to use object or class name.
The class.
So I'll call it like this, right? Class dot for
Yes,
name.
sir.
Whatever parameters are there, that we will come back to this. So for name is a method. It's a static method, so I should call it using class name. But the speciality of for name is what it returns. For name returns what? It returns an object of type
Class.
class. So for name method returns object of its container class, that is class. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So for name is a factory method. You heard about factory method?
No, sir.
No. For name is a factory method. So what is a factory method? A method which returns object of its own class is called factory method, right? Till this point, is it clear, sir?
Yes, sir.
So there is a class by the name class called as class. It has got some useful methods. One such method is for name, which is a factory method. What is factory method? That we have seen, and I hope you understood the concept of factory method. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Now let me go back to API. Another method what there is one more important another method called as new instance, right? New instance, which is again present in class called as class. Okay, new instance creates a new instance of the class represented by this class object. Creates an object of a class represented by this class object. The class is instantiated as if by a new expression with an empty argument list, right? So just make a note of this word new instance method. Just make a note of it. We will come back to this example, right? We will be using both class dot for name as well as new instance method, right, in a very, very important place. So we are going to take one example wherein we will be using both for name and new instance methods. So we are going to use them in a particular situation. Then you will understand what is the purpose of new instance method as well as for name method more clearly. As of now, these are two important methods available under class. For name is a factory method. New instance is an instance method. You have to call it with the help of object only, and it is not a factory method, right?
Yes.
Right. So just make a note of these two things. So we are going to use them in a very, very important situation, right? So till this point, are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we will move on. And object class also we will see. So object class is super class of class also, right?
Yes.
Means all methods which are there in object class are accessible to class also, right? Now coming to object class is super class of all classes, and there are methods like clone, equals, protected void, get class, hash code, notify all, toString, wait. All these things you might have already used. Did you use them?
So I've used equals and toString.
That's all. Okay. Okay. Fine. Wait, notify all. All these things you will use when you do multi-threading.
Okay.
You've done multi-threading.
No, sir, we just had the theory concept of it.
Was it there in your syllabus or not?
It was there, sir.
Fine, no issue. So we will be using most of these methods definitely, and so let us start writing a small class. Right, in that process, in continuation to how to write a class, in that concept we will come back to this class dot per name and name instance methods as well, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
shall we start?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, shall we start?
Yes, sir.
Again, some audio issue is there at your end. If you if there is an audio issue, you can simply type in the chat box. So shall we start writing the class?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. So let us write a very small class. Class is the keyword. Name of the class, let me call it as student. Right. Now let me define some attributes or properties or variables for a student. Right. Student will generally have a unique ID, so let me call it as integer ID. Then string name, and maybe double is CGPA. Right. Now on this student data, see, we are an object, we are following object oriented programming concept. So the fundamental principle of any object oriented programmer or any object oriented programming project is, first you have to identify data and identify the operations that are to be performed on the data, bind them together, put them together in a class. That is what is data binding and encapsulation. So now what I want to do is I want to write two functions. One is called as public void display, wherein I am just planning to print the values of these variables, right? And public void eligibility, another function wherein I want to check whether a student is eligible for a particular placement drive or not. For that I have written, I wanted to write some code. So imagine these are two methods. Now I'll write my public static void main. Right. So how do I create object of a class? How do I create object of a class?
Using the class name. Student s is equal to new keyword.
Student will write some name like student s1, and s1 is equal to new student. Then I will call function like this, s1 dot display s1 dot eligibility. So let me write something here, system dot out dot println, right, id, system dot out dot println name, system dot out dot println cgpa. Right. Here maybe I'll want to write some condition. If cgpa is greater than or equal to 8, dot out dot println, uh, eligible. Now whose the CGPA I am checking? I should write this dot, means the current object, right? Do you remember this keyword, this?
Yes, sir.
So this remains here, it is S1 is the object, so this represents S1, right? Now just go through this one, all right? Tell me, I'll try to save this one. You know that my class name and file name must be same, right? I am saving this in E drive. So just go through this code and tell, can I compile it or something is wrong? Is it fine? Your audio is fine?
Yes, sir.
Okay, why don't you write extends object? That's what. See here, class student extends objects is not required, sir. This is not required. The reason is by default.
Okay, sir.
By default, I'll put it in comment. By default, class is superclass of all classes. So I need not mention like student extends object. It is implied by default. Student is child class of object class. I need not mention.
Okay, sir.
All right. Any other point?
No, sir.
Again, there is an issue with your audio. So you please text. Is the code good enough? Shall I compile it, or do you think some changes are required? One second, I am trying to cascade both windows, right, so that you can see the code also. Right. So we need not write extends object, sir. By default, it is superclass of all classes. And let us compile this code now. Command prompt Java C enter.java. Java is not recognized as internal or external command. This is what I have told you, right? This problem we will get when path and class path environment variables are not set, right? So see, today I'm using a different laptop. So first of all, I don't know whether JDK itself is installed or not. I'm not sure. So let me check. If it is not there, we will install it immediately. See, it's not there. So let me install it, JDK. So since 2 days we were using a different laptop in which everything was installed, but this is another laptop. So Java was not there. So let me configure. It will hardly take couple of minutes. Is the audio working at your end now?
Oh, yes, sir.
I can't hear you. Maybe you have to text. I think you are using a wireless headset. If that is the case, sometimes it is not reliable. Use this old one, the wired earphone, old earphones, the wired one. Generally, they are more reliable. It will install. So meanwhile, see this one. So how many variables I have? I have 3 variables, 2 functions I have. Student is the name of the class. If you remember, in the last class we have seen system.out.println. System class also we have seen, and println does not belong to system class, right? Println belongs to print stream. So since you use it with system class, most of the time people think it is part of system class, right? So that is one more important point which we have observed in the last class, right? So I think we are done with this, right? So what next? I need to configure, right? Right click, properties, environment variable. So this actually you have done on it on your own, and once again we got an opportunity to do this, right? So go to advanced system settings. In that, environment variables, path, edit, new. Now browse. I should give the path of C:\program files Java JDK bin, right? I gave the path. Okay, then new class path, because all built-in classes which I am using, they should also be shown. So I should go to the location C:\program files Java JRE lib. Okay, then press OK, OK, OK. Now this command prompt, which is already open, it does not know the recent changes which were done. So I have to close this command prompt, close this window, open CMD again. Colon, right? CLS Java C student dot Java. Did I get any error? I did not get any error. So let me run the program Java student, right? Could not find or load main class student. So what could be the reason? It got compiled also. Yes or no? Java P student dot, right? So error, could not find or load main class student. So what could be the reason? Program got compiled, but when I am trying to execute, I am getting an error, could not find or load main class student. Let me go back and see the program. Is anything wrong with my class? Achha, there is an audio issue, right? You can type if you think something is wrong with the program. See, something is wrong. That's the reason we could not see the output, right? I make this one public. Save this. Compile again. Run again. See, error could not find or load main class student. So let me close this. Sometimes what will happen is Java virtual machine fails to load this dot class file. It do happen sometimes. And see, error could not find or load main class student. So generally what will happen is this problem will come if my class name and file name does not match. But of course here class name and file name were given properly, right? And if you see here, public static void main student s1 is equal to new student s1 dot display s1 dot eligibility. Now everything is fine with this program. Only doubt was like maybe my class is not public, so that's the reason it was unable to access the student class. But I made it public, I saved it, I compiled it, and I again executed it. Still there was an issue, right? So this will happen in some cases, like when I have set the what we say environment variables for the first time. What will happen is sometimes in your Windows operating system these environment variables may not set properly, so you have to restart the machine, then this error will go. So whenever you get this problem you get first time when you configure your Java virtual machine, and there is no rule like every time you get this problem. Sometimes it may happen. So first you have to check the program. If the program has one problem like class name and this file name was not matching, in that case it can create a problem. But in our program we did not see anything like that. Now what I have to do is, since I have recently updated my class variables, what I should do is sorry, environment variables, what I should do is I should restart my machine, right? Then automatically this problem will be eliminated. Thing is that now I cannot restart my machine because we are running an online session, right? But this should work. There is no problem with this code, and once I restart it, it will work. And if you want, you can check this code at your end. Now the problem is, suppose if I create, you can run this program in your machine, right? If I write s1 dot display, what values will be displayed? Did I initialize these values, int id, name, cgpa? Did I give any values?
No, sir.
So what is expected now? Did I do any initialization? No. So if I call display function, what will be printed? I just wanted to show that, but somehow I'm getting JVM error. So what could be the problem? I'll do is Control C. So what will be displayed? Try to use online Java IDE. Have you ever used online editors?
Yes, sir.
Okay, which one you have used?
I've used for C and C++, so that GCC one.
Okay, okay. Okay, again this should be, so here the file name is main.java, right? So I'll rename it. So what could be the problem, sir? Well, like what could be the value printed, because initialization was not done. Now I am trying to run this. So what values will be displayed? See here, in online compiler I have executed. Same code was working, right?
Yes, sir.
This is the output. Can you see this one?
Yes, sir.
Can you see the output? Please type, please text. If you have an audio issue, please text. Yeah. So what did you notice? The program is fine, but in my machine, I have to restart now because environment variable was not set properly. Once I restart, definitely it will work. And same code for our convenience, we have checked it in online editor. So what is the output you have seen? For student ID, it gave 0. For student name, it gave null. And for CGPA, it gave 0.0, right? So let me close this now. I don't need this anymore. Come back to the program. So what do you understand by this one? I did not give any values, right? Yes or no? So now see this one. This is an important option. Java C student.java program got compiled. So what I'll do is, there is a tool, there is a command called as Java P, and I'll write student.class. After compilation, we will get the bytecode class file student.class. Let me see that class file using a command called as Java P. So what do you see in this one, sir? What do you see in Java P command? What is the output you are seeing? What is the output you are seeing here? Int id java.lang.string name. I actually wrote string followed by name, but see what compiler has done. It has written complete extension, right? Complete path, sorry, package name java.lang.string name double cgpa. Means after compilation how my class will look like, this is what uh, I can see using java p command. Now see here, what is the difference between our program and this is source code, right? White screen is the source code, and see the black screen which is after compilation. How many methods we have written? We have written two methods, display and eligibility, apart from main. How many methods you are seeing after compilation in this black screen? You can text. Do you find anything extra there? That's great. Two methods and one constructor. So did I write any constructor? No, I did not write any constructor. So when I don't write any constructor, when I don't provide any constructor, right? When no constructor is provided by the programmer, compiler adds a default constructor, which is a zero argument constructor, and it initializes, what it does, it initializes the variables with default values, right? So what do you mean by a default value? For every data type there will be a default value. Means int id, I told id is an integer type. When object gets created and if no value was given, so what is the default value for integer? 0 is the default value for integer, right? 0 is the default value for integer. Similarly, null name is a string type, right? Name is a string type. So name, I did not give anything, so it will be a null string. And similarly, CGPA is of floating type or a double type variable, and default value for double is 0.0. Got it, sir? Understood? So that's the reason. What is happening is the now tell me the execution, right? Now you know architecture of JVM. Now what will happen when I run this program? What will be the flow? What will be the flow? Just look at this code and tell what will be the flow. What will be the flow? You can type because again you are on mute. I think you're trying to speak, but I'm unable to hear you.
So am I audible now?
Now it's okay.
Yes.
So what will be the flow of execution?
So first the main method, it goes into the main method.
Yeah. So first
And
class gets loaded into Java virtual machine. It looks
yes,
for static data. There is no static data. So it will look for static block. There is no static block. Then it will go to public static void main. What is the first line in public static void main? I am creating object of a class called as student class. Next.
yes.
After that,
And then the display method is executed, and then
no. Remember, whenever object gets created, immediately constructor will run automatically. Okay, got the point?
yes, sir.
So student S1 is equal to new student. I'm creating an object. Creating an object means what? Instantiation, memory allocation. A new object gets created. Memory will be allotted. Memory will be allotted for that student class. So you get ID, name, and CGPA variables. They get created. Memory will be allotted in heap. Do you remember heap?
Yes, sir.
Right? It is one part of main memory in which objects are created. So inside heap, memory allocation is done, and that piece of memory is identified as S1. Now, soon after creation of object, immediately constructor will run automatically. You need not call a constructor, right? Now the point is, did you write a constructor? No, you did not write a constructor. So when you don't write a constructor, compiler provides a default constructor, and I have shown you the default constructor also. See here, this got added public student. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Class name and constructor name will be same. Constructor, this is a constructor, but it is not taking any parameters, so it's a default constructor, zero argument constructor, which I have not written, but I'm able to see this in my .class file. It means it was added by compiler. Is it clear, sir?
Yes, sir.
So this default constructor will run, and what default constructor will do is it will initialize my variables ID, name, and CGPA with default values. I'm sorry. So the default values are for ID it will be 0, name it will be null, CGPA 0.0. Got it?
Yes, sir.
So first main method, then constructor object got created, then constructor got executed. Now display method is called. That's the reason it was displaying me 0, null, and 0.0, which we have seen in our online editor. Then S1 dot eligibility, right? it was not showing anything because CGPA was 0, and if it is greater than 8, then only it will print the so and so student is eligible. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Now, any other, as far as syntax wise it is concerned, it is syntactically correct and it was running. But do you think this is the best way of writing a class, or some refinements can be done? Execution wise, no issue, it got executed, we have seen. But is it a best practice for writing a class, or can it be improved? This is the point. Can it be improved?
We could give our own constructors.
We should give, yeah. Okay. Any other important point? The most important point is all your variables must be made private. This is a very, very bad practice of writing a class when your variables are not private. What will happen if my variables are not private? What will happen when my variables are not private?
They can be accessed outside the class also by other classes.
Any guesses? Private is the most strict access specifier, right? I think you're trying to speak, but I can't hear you. Better you type in the chat box.
So is it because the data can be accessed outside?
No issues. See, observe here. All variables must be declared private. This is the fundamental point which we need to keep in mind when we are writing a class. Now, what will happen if my variables are not private? If the variable is not private, what will happen is your child class can access your variables directly. Your child class can access your variables directly. Suppose you have 100 child classes. Now, can you tell if any one of your variable got edited or updated? Out of 100 child classes, who has updated that value? Can you tell? How many times it got updated? Can you tell? Means if the variable is not private, apart from you, your child classes can also directly access the variable. Means again you are going back and landing into the same problem which we have seen in the very first class called as need for object oriented programming. Why we shifted from old programming practices to object oriented programming? We have seen a problem. We don't have control on data, and if we don't have control on data, we end up developing applications which are either not accurate or not reliable. If you remember, we have seen one example of rate of interest variable which was shared between two functions, and we could not share it with only two functions. We struggled to do so, and we have finally concluded like there is no facility in C programming. I am not having control on data. This is what we have concluded before we come to object-oriented programming. Now, if my variables are not private, what will happen is same story, same problem will occur again. So even though I use object-oriented programming, even though I am using the class, even though I'm putting all my variables and functions together in one unit, still, if an outsider can access my variable directly, let the outsider be my child class, no issue. But if I have 100 child classes, and if all these child classes can access my variable directly, see, my problem is not with respect to security of data. I'm not at all talking about security of data. I'm not saying some outsider is accessing it is insecure. That is secondary part. Primary issue is if if an outsider, let it be my child class, if my child can access my data directly, and if I have 100 child classes, then again I will land into the same problem. If my variable gets updated, I don't know who has updated it, when it got updated, how many times it got updated. So again I am losing control on my data, right? So you have to make your variables private. When you make your variables private, they are not directly available, or they are not at all accessible from outside the class. Whether you are an outsider or the outsider can be a child class, still they can't access my variables directly. When no one can access my variables directly, I will have complete control on my data, and I know which variable is operated by which method. So in order to ensure data encapsulation property or feature, object-oriented programming feature, it is very, very important that your variables are private. Is it clear, Navya?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So previously, without this private keyword, all my variables were prone to the problem of indirect access either by a outsider class, or it can be a child class. So that was a very, very bad thing in my previous example, or in the same program when the variables were not private. That was a very bad thing. So I made my variables private. So this is the very first important best practice which one should follow when we write a class. Now another important point is, when you have some variables, obviously you will think of initializing them. So definitely you should have a constructor, right? At least one constructor you should have. So let me make it public. Constructors do not return anything, not even void, right? So I'll write like this: int id, comma, string name, comma, double CGPA. I'll write something like this: this dot id is equal to id. This dot name is equal to name. This dot CGPA is equal to CGPA. Created a constructor, and now when I create an object, I'll pass values now. ID is 501, name is Ram, CGPA 8.8. Right. So now please observe this one, right? Whatever constructor code I have written and highlighted, do you understand this? What I am doing here? Right. So if you observe, when object gets created, right, memory allocation is done. So S1 is an object gets created. So what will happen is, under S1, three variables will be created: ID, name, and CGPA, right? So this ID, name, and CGPA which are written here, these are only temporary variables, sir. These are temporary variables which are used in while the constructor is running. So to collect the values from that main method, when the object is created, they are used only to collect the values. So that ID 501 will come into this one, name Ram will come into this name variable, CGPA 8.8 will come here, and these three variables represents my RHS. So ID, name, CGPA represents temporary variable, RHS is temporary variable or the parameter variables. Now what is this dot ID, this dot name, this dot CGPA means this refers to current object. So the student object S1 object which is calling that constructor S1 object. On that S1 object or in that S1 object I have ID variable, name variable, CGPA variable. So this LHS, so let me write it here in the comment. LHS variables are my instance variables, right? RHS is only temporary parameter variables, right? Clear, Navya? Right. So how many constructors we can write? Constructors can be overloaded, so you can have constructor one constructor, two constructors, you can have multiple constructors as long as parameters are changing. You can have multiple constructors, so we call them overload, constructor overloading, right? So which probably we will see in tomorrow's class. So till this point, is it clear? This is how, means these are some key things which you have to keep in mind when you are writing a class. So I should make sure all my variables are private, and methods should be public because already variable is private. Now methods should be public. Now people may ask you, when you make all your variables private, means your even your child class can't access your variables directly. So is it not affecting inheritance? This is one important interview question. So if the variables are private, it means that no one can access your data directly from outside, including your child class. Then don't you think it will affect inheritance? Just think and respond. If I make my variables private, not even my child class can't, means no one can access my data directly out from outside the class, including the child. So is it not affecting the concept of inheritance? What is your opinion? Yes, sir, it affects. So shall I stop using private keyword in front of my variables? Make my data prone to uh, the previous problem which we have seen where everyone can access my data. If it affects inheritance, shall I remove private keyword in front of my variables? Just think. No idea? See here. So don't get confused, and people will try to confuse you in interviews saying that the moment you make it private, now no one can access it from outside. So even your child can't access. So obviously it affects inheritance. Then there is no reusability. All those things people will say. But remember, what we are doing is we are following best practices. So point number one, I need complete control on data. That was the ultimate purpose of opting object-oriented programming, and that I am going to achieve by making all my variables private. The moment I make my variables private, I am 100% confident that no outsider can touch my variable directly. Now the conflicting statement is, if it is not accessible directly from outside, then what is the situation of your child class? If child can't access your data, then what is the fun of inheritance and where is the reusability? So for that question, the answer is very, very simple. The answer is, for my variables, for my data, to access my variables and data, I will provide methods. For example, display method I have provided. If my child class wanted to see the data, let my child class call the method display. If my child class wanted to see the eligibility, let my child class access the eligibility method. So we are providing, see, I am not giving direct access to my data, even to my child class, but at the same time, I am providing methods which are public. Make a note. I am providing public methods. With the help of these public methods, my child class can happily access the variables. Now here accessing means only he can see what is there in the variable, right? He can't write his own code. So what is happening is I am providing reusability, but at the same time, the code written by me, only that code will be executed on my data. That's the reason I have complete control on my data. If someone wants to read my data, someone wants to reuse my data, they can do it by calling my own methods. So what we are doing, we are making variables private. So we are restricting unauthorized access, and we are providing public methods to give access in a very systematic manner. So what will happen is, any outsider, anyone who wants to access my data, they will call my methods which are public. Since they are public, they are accessible to everyone. Now what is my benefit here is, whether an outsider or owner of the class, whoever is accessing my data, they will be accessing my data via my methods. Since only my methods are being used, since outsider can't access my data directly, what outsider will do? He will use only the methods given by me to operate on my data. When only my methods are being used, only my code is being used to operate on my data, obviously I have complete control on my data, and I'm very much sure that no other code will be running on my data directly. So I restrict unauthorized access by making variables private, and thereby I gain complete control on my data. But at the same time, if someone wants to access my data, I will provide methods which are public so that anyone can access, and thereby I also ensure that there is reusability. Got the point? Is it clear? Right. So in tomorrow's class, we'll discuss more about constructors, and we will talk about one important use case or a situation wherein our class.pername and new instance method, these two things will come into picture. So we will discuss that, and if possible, we will talk about hash code method also, right? So till this point, is it clear? You are following the concepts? Okay. Any doubts? If you have any doubts, let me know. Okay. So in tomorrow's class, we'll continue. We will discuss more on constructors and that important concept of class.forName as well as hash code. Okay.